What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Travels by Ryan channel. My name is Ryan, and I am the creator of this channel. This channel has been up for a little bit now, but I haven't actually put any videos really together for it outside of like putting up here videos here and there of my flights and landings and some of the events that I've been to. But I wanted to actually formally put a video together, which is supposed to be what this channel is going to be about. So I do ask you guys bear with me just to give a little insight into myself. I am an aviation junkie. I love to travel. I love to fly. I love to be on planes, and I love to share my experiences and journeys. And being that I'm currently in a moment of my life where things are kind of changing, and I would say, maybe some things for the worse, but mostly for the better. I've decided that I want to actually start using this platform to share some of those journeys with all of you. And hopefully you guys will find some good pointers out of some of my videos whenever you are planning your travels. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video review as we review the inaugural flight from Newport News International to Orlando of Avelo Airlines. All right, so like I said, this video is going to be a review of my flight, my inaugural flight experience with Avelo Airlines. They are a new airline that started much like Breeze did here in the United States back in 2021 in the height of the pandemic. Their headquarters is out of Houston, but their first flight was actually out of Burbank, California back on April 28th. Now, it is important to know that this video is not going to be a video about the history of Avelo. There are, I'm sure, plenty of other people who make these type of videos that will have gone into the history of Avelo. This is solely going to be based on the inaugural flight experience here at Newport News. But I might talk about their history later, who knows? But that's not what this video is for. So if you're looking for the history of what they used to be before they became Avelo, that is not what you're going to find here. But if you want to know about the experience, you're in the right place. So their first flights, like I said, were based out of Burbank, California, and they currently serve 32 destinations, which includes the airport I'm going to be talking about today in my video. Now, just kind of a little insight, I'm based out of Virginia, despite me wearing a London hoodie, and Newport News is actually my regional airport. But while I have three options here where I live at, which is Newport News International, PHF, Orlando, Norfolk, Virginia, which is ORF, and then Richmond International, which is RIC. This Newport News is the closest airport to me. It is also the airport that I can go to that does not require me to go through our underwater tunnel, which for anyone who lives in the 757 and knows about our great tunnel system, you know that it's dreaded. And having a new airline come to my regional airport, an airport that has suffered a lot over recent years, it's a really, really big deal. When I heard that this airline was going to be starting its services here in Newport News, I was ecstatic, because if they are successful, and I pray that they're going to be successful, this gives me a great option to get down to Florida and hopefully other destinations non-stop without having to go through Charlotte, because again, for those who live here, you know that Newport News only has American Airlines as at least up until October 19th. They only had American Airlines that was left due to the consolidation of AirTran after Southwest bought them out, and then a variety of other departures, and then of course COVID, which just completely killed the airport. I can't forget the failed attempt of People Express, which tried to come back in 2014. I flew on that inaugural flight actually, and then shortly after they came to Newport News, it ended up busting, and I think some people went to jail. So Newport News International has had nothing short of controversy and setbacks after setbacks after setbacks, and now is an airport that really more or less has only been really serving private pilots and Cessna planes and stuff like that. So having this new airline want to do business at my regional airport and the one that's most convenient for me, it's a really big deal. It was a really big deal for this area, and I am really ecstatic and hoping that this airline will be successful. And hopefully, we'll see where they go after, I finish talking about how my experience went on the inaugural flight. All right, so purchasing your flight for Avelo Airlines is very easy. You can either use the downloadable app Avelo Airlines, or you can go to their website, aveloair.com. You pop in your destination. Once you pop in your destination and your date, it pulls up a list of available flights. Now, for my airport here in Newport News, they're actually only going to be flying out twice a week. This is very common for new airlines and ultra low cost carrier airlines. They normally only fly out a couple of times a week to maximize profits and to keep the schedule simple rather than legacies, which always have daily flights. So keep that in mind when you're using them. Also keep that in mind because if a cancellation or a delay happens, you might end up spending a couple extra days at your destination. If you didn't have money to do that, then you may be screwed. So just keep that in mind. But after you pull up your destination and pop in your date, it'll pull up the list of available flights. You choose your flight. Normally it'll ask you to enter the basic personal information that you enter on any other airline that you might purchase. It then gives you a seat selection where you can choose your seat, and then it will give you an additional selection of optional services like priority boarding, which was $15 at the time of the inaugural flight, carry-on bag, which is $40 at the time of my original flight, and a checked bag, which is also $40. And so getting into these fees, it's very important to remember that Avelo Airlines is an ultra low cost carrier, which means they are like Breeze, Spirit, Allegiant, Frontier, all of these airlines, which they put how much you're going to spend on your flight in your hands, instead of legacy airlines like American, United, Delta, JetBlue, established airlines that everything is included in that ticket fare. You have to kind of make your decision what you want. So with Avelo, they're no different. Your seat can range anywhere between $10 if you're sitting all the way in the back of the plane to about $50 to $60 extra for the seat if you're sitting up front. Take note that the further front you are, the more pitch that you have, and we'll get into that discussion in just a few moments. But that can determine what that price is, and you just want to make sure that you go into any flights with Avelo Airlines with planning. Anytime you're using an ultra low cost carrier, you want to truly look at the math, look if you're traveling light or heavy, and make a determination if after all of those added fees come into your ticket price, if it is actually worth it. Now for me, my actual trip, round trip, because I was just going for a day to cover the media event, going to Orlando for the day and came back the following morning, my trip altogether was only $71 and some change. However, it could be very different for you. Take note, I also was part of an introductory fare, so once the introductory fares are done and all the discounts are done, you should expect it to go up a little bit more than that. But either way, I mean, round trip, traveling light, $71 from here to Orlando and back, that's an absolute steal. And again, it just really depends on what you're looking for, if this is going to be a great product or if it's not going to be a great product. And if you're someone that doesn't like ultra low cost carriers, you're not going to like the product. So again, as far as our pre-flight stuff went, I was part of the media event that happened for all of us that work in media, and for any aviation junkie that actually runs these type of review channels. The one great thing about Avelo Airlines is that anytime they do these introductory flights, they actually extend media invitations, not just to those of us who work for actual major media people like myself. I obviously won't disclose who I work for, but they also extend that open invitation to all of the aviation review channels, those who they run these type of channels on like YouTube and stuff like that. So it's extended to anyone who has a love for aviation, a love for the industry, and wants to participate in the event. I think that's a really nice touch. Not all airlines do that. Some can be really stringent on who's allowed to come, but Avelo Airlines was very welcoming. I got to meet a wonderful individual by the name of Courtney Goff. She is the communications manager with Avelo Airlines. She absolutely was a gem to talk to. You could tell that the people who work for Avelo are very excited about their product, and they are very excited to be coming to Newport News, an airline that, as I just told y'all, is incredibly underserved. So we had a really great experience on the ground. When we got to the airport, I want to say it started around 9 a.m. and we all got to go out to we got to go outside to see the plane land and come in, and it had its water cannon salute. That was really awesome to get to see on the ground. And then of course we got to see it come up to the gate on the ground, up close and personal. So that was a really, really great experience. And then we just got to have a little bit of conversation with all of the individuals, some picture taking that happened with some of the executives, the chief captain, the first officer, and some of the other members of leadership with the airlines. And it was just a really, really good event. So after all of that was done, we did get to have a plane walkthrough before the boarding of it actually happened. And this is and the plane that we were flying, actually, and I guess that's very important to say here, is for this flight, we were flying on a Boeing 737-700. Now, as far as Avelo Airlines fleet is concerned, at the present moment, I want to say they have 11 or 12 aircraft in their fleet. It says here right now they have 11 in their fleet. So out of that 11, some of them are the 737-800 series aircraft, which are the slightly longer aircraft that they'll use for more longer haul flights, primarily the ones that are out west or west to east coast flights. And then you have the 737-700 aircrafts, which will service a vast majority of the destinations here on the east coast where I live at. So our aircraft was a Boeing 737-700 series aircraft. I believe that we were told that there were 149 seats on our aircraft. And again, it is important to remember that this is a all economy product. So there is no business class, first class, premium, economy. All the seats are economy. The only real difference is that the further up you go, the more legroom you get, as you see in the video. So obviously exit row seats, you're going to get a vast majority of legroom. And me personally, if I'm not recording on a flight or something like that, I will get exit row seats when at all possible, because it is such an affordable way to be able to have great legroom, especially on long haul transatlantic and trans-Pacific flights. So no different on these aircraft, and anyone that's been in a Boeing 737 or a 737-700 or 737-800, it's pretty much universal across all the fleet of aircraft, no matter what airline it is, that the exit seats are great. As far as my seat that I was in for this flight, and I might show it later, I did not have a great amount of legroom, but again, I'm a 6-foot guy. Not really big, but again, as far as weight is concerned, but because I am 6 foot and I do have long legs, unfortunately, sitting in the back is not very ideal. My legs were on the seat the entire time, and the only reason that it wasn't so bad for my flight was because there was no one in front of me. So that was that's the layout of the inside of the aircraft. And after we finished having our tour of the inside of the aircraft, we did get a complimentary chocolate for the airport for the inaugural flight. And we also got this certificate from Avelo Airlines thanking all of us that were going to be flying on the aircraft that day. So as far as the flight itself went, uneventful. And uneventful is always good in aviation. But when I say uneventful in this case, I mean that to the literal sense of the word. The ground staff was amazing. The flight attendants were amazing. They had great personalities. The captain and the first officer, amazing people, great to talk with. But there wasn't a whole lot to knock on the flight itself. The entirety of the flight was pretty straightforward. We did have a bit of a turbulent takeoff. I don't know if you saw that in the video. I have video stabilization when I use my devices, so it kind of cut down some of it, but we did have a bit of a rocky start from the takeoff. And I had my headphones on, so I'm not sure if they actually said over the speakers if they actually weren't going to do in-flight service, but there was no in-flight amenities for this entire flight. There was no water offered, no in-flight snacks offered. This aircraft does not have Wi-Fi, so there was no Wi-Fi. While there was a tray table, it was a clean tray table and everything was straightforward, there just wasn't really a lot to knock when it came to amenities. But it's important to remember that this is an ultra low cost carrier and this is a new ultra low cost carrier. So there's a lot that they have to figure out for the airline for how their in-flight service is going to go. And so I'm not really knocking them too hard on their inaugural flight. Again, at the time, the flight attendants were still pretty new, trying to figure out how things are going to work on this airline. And I think they just weren't in a position to be able to offer really any type of services yet. With that said, I will say when I flew on Breeze's inaugural flight, there was at least in-flight snacks of some sort, which was water. But that's a whole nother situation because Breeze still a year later has issues with offering pretty much any type of in-flight snack other than water. So, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. Needless to say, this flight was fine. It was smooth once we got out of the turbulence, and it was a very pleasant flight to the ground when we landed in Orlando. And the biggest positive of the whole flight really was the flight attendants. They were absolutely wonderful people. I will actually say, even though this video is not going to cover my return flight from Orlando to Newport News, same thing. That was a 6:30 a.m. flight, and there was a element of excitement and happiness from the flight attendants. They were very happy to welcome us on board, even in a super early morning flight like that. I've had some really grumpy flight attendants first thing in the morning, shoot, and I can't blame them. I'd be grumpy at 6 a.m. in the morning, so not blaming them at all. But it was really, you really do feed off of that energy. And despite the fact there was no in-flight amenities or snacks or anything like that, it was a great experience just having flight attendants who truly were happy to be there. And they did make a really great experience to and from Orlando. So my final thoughts about my experience with Avelo during the inaugural flight from Newport News to Orlando is generally positive. It wasn't a perfect flight, and of course there was absolutely no in-flight service to be heard of, so I can't really judge them negatively or positively on that since nothing was offered at all. But putting that aside, the product was safe. Everything went off without a hitch. There was no issues or complications with takeoff or landing. The flight attendants and the ground crew and the pilots were really great people to interact with. They seemed to be really happy about being there. And overall, I think for the price that you're paying and for the convenience of being able to have, at least in this area, a regional option for an airport that tends to get overlooked by every airline, to be able to go down to a popular vacation destination like Florida and not having to go to Charlotte and then fly from Charlotte to Florida, I think that Avelo has filled an incredibly necessary gap for this region. We needed a new airline at Newport News that could service vacation destinations conveniently, and I think this is the answer. Again, they have some growing to do. They're definitely going through those pains of being a new airline and an airline that has expanded pretty rapidly in the last 6 months. But I think that they have a really, really good product, and it is a product that I look forward to using hopefully time and time again. Now, I know that some of you that know about the competition across the water here, Breeze, might be asking, which one do I prefer? And they both have their pros and cons. And with Breeze, I'll say that the biggest con right now for them is that they can't not cancel flights. So again, another consequence of new airlines that I am hoping Avelo doesn't go through, but all airlines are inevitably having to deal with, especially now with the pilot shortage, crew timeout, the flight attendant shortage, and really just the overall shortage of workers in the aviation industry as a whole. So, I can't really hold that on them. But I'll say from my experience so far between Avelo and Breeze, Breeze definitely feels like more of a premium product than Avelo does. I think Avelo, like, I don't know if what I'm about to say makes any sense, but Avelo truly does feel like it's going to really be the definition of an ultra low cost carrier, but Breeze is more of just a general low cost carrier without the ultra on it. And that is primarily because Breeze has what at least I would consider now a business class product, almost, just minus the food and stuff that hopefully they'll get soon. For those who know, Breeze now has A220s that are flying now. And with those planes, they have what's known as the nicest seat. And with the nicest seat, it is actually a really, really nice seat with like power on plugs and chargers and plugs and everything like that. So, it's really hard to compare or say which one I prefer because first off, they're not even in the same price range anymore. Yes, Breeze occasionally runs $39 and $49 offer for flights, but for all the destinations I want to go to, the prices have definitely started to increase a bit. So I think that Avelo does not really, there's not really going to be this whole competition between what's better than the other. And I think that Avelo is going to do well enough in its own place here at Newport News. I'm really happy that they did not go to Norfolk. That brings my heart joy because I just got tired of Newport News getting looked over. And I personally believe that this is a product that I'm really going to look forward to seeing grow and hopefully will succeed, unlike what happened when People Express tried to come here in 2014. So that said, that is my official review. I will be posting the full takeoff and landing sequence of this particular inaugural flight and of my return flight that following morning on the Travels by Ryan channel. So feel free to check that out. And I would like to thank all of you for watching my first review video. I know this is a little rough around the edges. I'm trying to find what's going to work. And hopefully as I do more flying and more traveling in the near and distant future, I'll kind of work out how I want to do these videos. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you did like the content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And if you want to be one of the first to be notified when new content becomes available, hit the bell icon. So I will catch you guys on another flight whenever that should happen. It might be Breeze, it might be my upcoming Singapore flight. I don't know, but until that time, I'll catch y'all later.
Welcome you to Orlando, the home of Walt Disney World. The local time is 1:44.